Alright, hey guys, Caleb Blassingame here. It's been a while. Uh, it's been a while. Um, so today, or tonight, whenever you're watching this, um, just doing a small kind of talking, um, rambling kind of video, and kind of showing you off like my knife collection or blade collection, whatever you want to call it. Um, just gonna be talking about kind of where I've been, what I've been doing, plans for the future. I don't have plans for the future. I'm sad and alone. Anyways, yeah, so let's just get into it. So, I'm going to start with, I'm doing these blades by like oldest to newest as far as actual age, not so much like when I got them, but actual age. Um, so, first we have this. This is a, um, uh, pattern 1853 Enfield bayonet, Civil War era bayonet. Um, it was given to me by my uncle. I don't know exactly where he got it, but he knew I was really into military stuff and history, and he had it and he gave it to me. This was about 3 years ago. It's not like if you tried hard enough, you could definitely stab somebody with this, or cut them or something, but it's not really that sharp. Um, Here's the locking lug that would go over the muzzle of the rifle, and then you twist it, and then this little band twists to block off two small little channels right here, um, for a lug that's on the barrel to help lock it in there. Very cool. I don't have much of a use for it because I don't have an 1853 Enfield musket. I would love to have one, but I just don't because even reproductions are really expensive, like $1,500. So, yeah, I don't own one of those. But to have the bayonet, it's really cool. It's a piece of history. At first, I wasn't sure the era it was from, but we determined it was a British. I had a friend, or not. My grandmother had a friend whose brother was a gunsmith and was very into historical firearms when they were younger. Um, and so he himself, picking up the knowledge from his older brother, uh, knew some stuff, and so I asked him, um, and there's a marking down here near the bolster that resembles a crown, so it was determined it was a British uh, bayonet. It's an Enfield bayonet. If you didn't know, Enfield was like the British um, rifles and stuff. Um, so it was for an 1853 British rifle. Now, if you're wondering, like, what does that have to do with like the American Civil War? The British kind of like helped the South a lot, as far as like lending them firearms and money and stuff, kind of. And so the uh, the Confederates, of course, had Enfield rifles and their matching bayonets. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So before I go into the next one, just talking kind of about where I've been, what I've been doing, um, that type of thing. Uh, just been busy with school, honestly. Um, School started up, and uh, just kind of got busy with it and stuff. Of course, football season. I play football for my high school, um, so just very busy with with football. And then fall play started, and so I had practice every Tuesday and Thursday night. I finally have like a decent like part. Like I've always in the past played small parts. They were really fun parts, but very small, brief parts. And this year I actually get to play a larger part, and that's very exciting. Can't wait for that. Unfortunately, the actual play's been postponed back to like April, because right as like practice was about to start, we had a not necessarily big outbreak, but a lot of teachers got COVID. or like they were either out because they fell under the water. There was like 3 that had for sure tested positive, and like a few more um, that were still waiting on tests. So school got called off, which kind of pisses me off. How school doesn't really have a regard for the students, per se. Really, they value they they value like grades and numbers too much to give a shit about their students, at least in my school. And if any officials from my school see this, sorry, but it's the truth. Um, because at my school, uh, if a um, so like the teachers got sick, so we didn't have enough subs to fill in for the teachers. So that's why we called off school. But we've had tons and tons of students that have been out sick with COVID, and they haven't called off school for the students that have been sick, but they have for the teachers that have been sick because they don't have the staff to keep it going. Um, but as long as they can have students in school, they're going to, because no matter how sick, how matter how many students get sick, if they can still have like a justifiable number of students, they're gonna keep school going as long as they have the staff, because that's what they want. It's all about numbers and money and stuff. Um, and like another thing with that is, um, like sporting events. So like if there is a day where like roads are really bad because of snow. I live in South Dakota. I live in the Midwest, northern Midwest. So our winters are really wild and stuff, and so it could be 80 degrees one day and blizzarding the next. Um, and so the roads could be really bad, and we shouldn't be in school because of how bad the weather is. But if there's like some sort of big sporting event, um, like state basketball, state wrestling, a playoff game of any sort, any like big sporting event that actually like somewhat matters, they won't call off school because of that sporting event. They won't tell you that, but I've noticed, and other students have noticed this too. We've all noticed this pattern where there have been really bad days, um, where we call off school, or like days we call off school for snow, but it's in reality it's not that bad. But then there are days that are far worse than that we don't call off school, and usually those days that are far worse and we don't call off school, are the days that there's some sort of like major sporting event or something. So yeah, that's that. So going on to my next 2 knives, I almost just cut myself on one of them because these 2 I don't have sheaths for. These I actually got recently. This one I got just like a week ago from my dad. Um, and then this one I got earlier this summer. So we'll start with this one. These are both World War II knives. This is a Cattaraugus fighting/utility knife. My dad bought one and really liked it and stuff, and it's a very sharp knife. Like on its own, like obviously the owner has kept it sharp, the previous owner, but on its own, it's a very sharp knife. It's very known for that. Like literally, I could barely drag this across my. I have knives that if I were to lightly let it down on my hand and just drag my hand across it, they wouldn't cut. But this one, I could barely touch it and drag my hand across it, and it would cut me like fairly deep. It's a very sharp knife. I don't have a sheath right now for it, because the sheath that came with this one, the original actual World War II sheath, was kind of not ride, but very worn out. It had a hole in the leather and stuff. So my dad took it to a leather shop here in town, and basically told the guy, "Hey, can you make me one of these sheaths?" And so like he just gave him the sheath to use as a pattern and stuff. So yeah, um, very nice knife. Uh, not not very my style. I'm not a huge fan of large, thick knives. Like this is also a very heavy knife. but I'm not a big fan of large knives like this that have this very big round curve and very wide blade. I'm not a huge fan of that, but regardless, it's still a cool knife, and it's a pretty expensive knife too. Like, this is a $200 knife, and my dad got a good deal on it. I'm not sure how much he paid exactly though. Next we have this knife. So, if you're familiar with military knives, you'll realize this kind of reminds you of a very famous one, but it seems off. So, if you're familiar with military knives, what this is reminding you of is the classic K-Bar fighting knife, the Marine Corps fighting knife. And this is in fact made by K-Bar. Or where's the marking for it? Is it? Oh, it's on the. It's hard to see, but it's right there. It says K-Bar, Olean, New York. Um. So essentially, like, you had the actual K-Bar fighting knife, the bigger one, um, but there was kind of these lines of like personal use knives or whatever, like more of just like utility knives. They weren't like something you got issued, it was something you had to like personally buy, and they had different variations of them. They had ones that had serrated backs, or they had ones that were um, a smooth spine like this. They had ones that didn't have a fuller, like this one, and they had ones that did have a fuller. Uh, they had a model like this where it was just bare metal, and then they had a model that was blued. If you don't know what bluing is, it's like something they do on knives and guns and stuff, um, and it's like a chemical coating to change the color of the knife and kind of put a protective coat on the metal. Um, but so yeah, very cool knife. This one not worth much, but still a cool knife. I lost the sheath for this one. It didn't have the original, like World War II military sheath with it. It had a custom sheath, and it was a very cool sheath. And I wish I had it here, especially because it has two antler tips on it. So there's a leather tie around that goes when you put it in the sheath. It ties it into the sheath and keeps it secure. And on the end of that leather rope that you tie around the handle, on each end is two tips of deer antler, and those sound really nice when you tap them together. Um, but yeah, would have been nice for the ASMR and stuff. But unfortunately, I don't know where it's at. I'll find it eventually though. Okay, so next is this. This is another bayonet. This is a Vietnam War bayonet. This is an M7 bayonet for the M16 series of rifles, originally designed for the M16 rifle, but it was later used on all sorts of models. It was compatible basically with pretty much all models of military AR-15s, the M16, the XM16E1, M16A1, A2, the A3, the M4, and the M16A4, as long as it had the bayonet lug, essentially. Um, so this was based on the the M. I don't want to call it the M series of knives because like they're uh, they're basically like all the same. So essentially, you had like um, there was an M1. There was the M1 bayonet for the M1 Garand during World War II, and it was a very long sword type bayonet. Then there was the M2 fighting knife and the M3 I believe the M2 was like a utility knife. And then there was the M3 fighting knife, famously used by paratroopers during World War II. Well, in 1944, towards the end of World War II, when the U.S. was looking to be able, basically soldiers said, we want to be able to put a bayonet on our M1 carbines. So what the military did is they took the M3 fighting knife and put this kind of grip on it, this black checkered grip on it, and put a locking piece for a lug that was on the M1 that they put on the M1 carbine. And so that was the M4 bayonet. And so then after that was the M5, which was a shortened bayonet for the M1 Garand that was very similar. It used the M3/M4 style blade. It had a different locking lug because the bayonet lug on the M1 Garand was different from that of the M1 carbine. And then there was the M6 bayonet for the M14 series rifles, and then after that was the M7 for the M16s. Typically, these scabbards right here were metal right here, which mine is, and then they would be like a fiberglass, like the scabbard was like fiberglass. Mine is plastic. And also it says US M8A1 scabbard. That's correct, but then it says Germany. So the only thing I can figure out is that, and also this button here, you'll notice the texturing on it. You see that a lot on a lot of German, West German gear from like the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So from what I can determine is possibly this was just because we were allies with West Germany and we had troops in West Germany up until the 90s, before they reunified. My guess is that it's a U.S. bayonet and sheath, or scabbard rather, but it was manufactured in Germany, either for the U.S. military or possibly for German coalition forces in West Germany. So yeah, I bought this a while ago. I bought this from a friend who lives in a different part of the state, and he threw in a bunch of other gear with it too, and then I sold it and then bought it back again. So yeah. And next we have this, my U.S. Air Force survival knife. So the reason I put this is kind of from the same era as my M7 bayonet, the Vietnam War. But the reason I put it kind of like last is because this is a modern commercial reproduction of it. It's still made by the same company that made the original ones, but it's just a modern commercial copy rather than a military issue one from like I think they originally started issuing them in like the mid 50s to US flight crews. So it contains this leather sheath, the knife itself, and a pouch here on the front of the sheath to hold a sharpening stone. The knife itself pretty much did not change over the entire course of its. The U.S. Air Force like switched these out for a different knife. It was still the same company, but like the company offered like a modernized version of it to the U.S. Air Force called the SP1 survival knife, and it was just this knife but like modernized with like a black rubber grip and stuff instead of a leather one. But the knife itself, up until the like 2003, I think is when they finally switched them out, stayed the same. But aside from like how the pommel is secured, it's like on here the pommel is just put onto the tang and then welded. Like originally this probably would have been pinned, And like the marking is here on the side of the pommel. Originally it probably would have been on the bottom of the pommel here. So just variation, like as far as functionality of the blade, it never changed. Um, and there are two little holes here. So what that's for is like if you find like a stick or something, there's like a extra piece of string that comes with this, or like you can use the leg tie even, because it's the same string. But the idea is, you find a stick and you uh, put the you put it like with the knife like this, the sticks along here, and then you use these holes to run the string through and secure the knife to the stick, effectively making a spear. Um, but yeah, this one I got. My aunt and uncle knew I'd been wanting one, and they knew I was really into military stuff, and so they got it for me for my birthday. And I actually remember um, coming out into. So my mom picked me up from school, and I went out to the car, and she was like, "Oh, you have a package here," and I opened it up, and it was the knife, and I was like super excited and stuff. So yeah, just really cool knife. This is one of my favorites that I own. And then we have my last knife, my switchblade. I showed this off in my other video, my last video, so I won't spend too much time on it, but stiletto style blade, spring assisted with the button, and it's got a safety on it. I don't carry it at school, but I do, like, if I'm going out and about or something, like in public, I do carry this with me because I'm only 17, so I can't legally own a gun yet, for self-defense or protection. And to be honest, like if somebody was invading my house, I might have to, and I had to defend it with a gun, I probably would, but I don't, I can't say like, yeah, if I carried a gun and got attacked, I can't say I would have the guts to shoot a person. I feel like I would, but I don't know that for sure. Um, and I feel like when it comes down to it, it's a lot easier to try and defend yourself with a knife rather than a gun, consciously speaking. Of course, logistically speaking, a gun's gonna win over a knife. But just consciously thinking, it's a lot easier because you think, oh well, maybe I won't kill him, which you probably will. But there's uh, there's kind of a system of doubt in your mind when you stab somebody. You think, well, maybe I just wounded him, maybe I didn't kill him. Whereas with a gun, the way you train with your firearm, you are trained to kill. You're trained to shoot to kill. If you have training with a knife, you can be trained that way too. But if you aren't trained that way and you just carry a knife for self-protection, and there are a lot of people who will disagree with me about that, saying, "Oh no, if you can stab somebody with a knife, you can sure as heck shoot them with a gun." But yeah, whatever. But yeah, nice knife. I like it. Fun knife. So, yeah, that's all of my like knife slash blade collection. There's one thing I didn't show in this video because I technically don't have it yet. I haven't even bought it yet. But I plan on buying a sword, um, like a medieval style sword, a reproduction, of course. And I don't know if I'll do a video on that, but if I do get it and stuff, and you guys want a video on that, I don't know how much ASMR I can really do with a sword. But if you guys decide that you want a video on that, just let me know, and I'll probably do it. If I get a sword, once I get a sword, I don't know. But yeah, so that's the end of the video, guys. I just want to say, so I don't know how much we're at now, but last I checked, we were at 17 subscribers, and I just want to say thank you guys. I really didn't plan for this channel to be anything. I didn't even think I would upload as much as I have already, which isn't a lot, but I didn't think I would upload at all here. But I have, and you guys are telling me that you enjoy the content, and I enjoy making it. So 17 subscribers isn't a lot, but because I didn't expect anything out of this channel, it means a lot to me that you guys, take time out of your lives to watch my videos and to give me a subscription, even though you don't have to. And I just appreciate it. Like, that means a lot to me, guys, and gals. I guess guys is technically a gender neutral term, but some people get uppity about it. So, guys and gals. So yeah, sorry, I just had to ramble on. I'll probably make another video soon. I don't know when. I planned on making a video before I made this one. I planned on making a video for like a good 4 days. I even had a 3-day weekend that I could have done it on, but like I just got so busy and forgot to do it and stuff. So I'm finally sitting down and doing it now. So yeah, end of video. Catch you guys on the flip side.